Thanks for tuning in to another Saturday starting lineup report right here on ProLine TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and we've got a weird one for you. They were supposed to practice Friday, and they didn't, so they practiced today. And that's not the weird part, but I guess we should have already got a hint that something different was going to happen. And it did, regarding the difference between practice and qualifying. Now, maybe it screwed up the teams. I don't know. Maybe they were all set to go on Friday. And I don't know. Maybe Saturday, the change in the calendar did something to how they set their cars up. I know that's ridiculous. And that's not what happened. But I'm grasping with straws trying to figure out exactly what happened between qualifying and practice. Hey, I tell you what, before we get into that, I was in a meeting before the show with myself, trying to come up with any way possible to get this message across the most professional way I could. And this is all I could come up with. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, we really appreciate everybody that checks in here every weekend to find out what's going on and trust us to do this. So all we ask in return is just to hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Also the like one. I know I put my thumb up anyway, but yeah, subscribe, like, all that stuff. Really cool. And let us know what's on your mind, because by doing that, that gives us the freedom to continue to do this. And the more we can do this, the more we can add on to this type of content and give you the very best content every week to try to get you ready for every NASCAR Cup Series race and F1 too. All right, so let's get right to it. Let us pop back on the screen where we started. This is going to be the starting lineup. And wow, what a surprise. Look who's in the starting lineup. Look who's on the pole. It's Chase Briscoe. Amazing. Not amazing, really, the last couple of, actually, the last 3 or 4 results in qualifying. But this is just amazing about where he stood and where he is now. Not a surprise, though, if you think about it, because this is exactly what we said at the beginning of the year with Chase Briscoe. It was going to take him a while to adjust to the new team. This is Martin Truex's team, car, all that stuff. And this is why... See, this is the whole idea. What a great example Chase Briscoe is to the difference between equipment. What a difference. This is why I think that the sport would be so much better, I think most fans agree, is if it was an even playing field all across and we just let it up to the drivers. You know, just what I'm saying, what I mean by that is, of course, at some point you got to ditch the sponsorship. The sponsorship, I mean, look, I have no problem with the sponsorships on the cars and all that kind of stuff. Maybe there's a way to still include the sponsorships as part of being, just to show you that they are sponsoring a specific team. And, every team does it in every sport. You have specific sponsors. You see when they're standing up on the podium for press conferences, they're in the back. And so that kind of thing, that's fine. But this is why. I mean, look at Ross Chastain. I mean, who the heck was Ross Chastain pre-next gen? Nobody. As soon as they changed the car and bring Ross Chastain up, voila. And by the way, you know what? That also helped Ross Chastain, besides the team and the car and all that kind of stuff. And we just talked about this, like this past show, I believe. And that is the inability for the bigger teams to have to go through 3 or 4 practice sessions a week and all these testing. Because we were talking about that last week with the new tire at Dover. And it probably would have been a lot better if the teams had an opportunity to test it out, et cetera, et cetera. And then we kind of thought about it, or I kind of thought about it. And I was like, well, yeah, but we don't really want that to happen. We don't want them to test and test and test. Because normally when that happens, the best, they usually end up coming out on top, the law of averages again. So more money, better teams. Obviously, they're going to end up in a much better situation if they can. Look, if you have a lot of money then what's going to happen? You're going to buy better drivers. You're going to be able to buy better crew chiefs, buy better engineers, all that kind of stuff. And then it trickles all the way through to everything that you're doing as far as that team's concerned. And so what's left when you take a look at the 40 cars, 39 cars that drive each week, you have a big disparity between, say, the top 20 and then the bottom 20. You know, that 50% deal there. That top 20, you could see any of them win on any given week, but the other 20, man, if they win, it's freaky, and it's probably going to be on a super speedway or something, or a road course or something like that. So anyway, just wanted to get that out there because, again, this is all part of me trying to figure out what the hell went on with practice and qualifying. And Briscoe is just a great example, as I was saying, with how things have changed for him by being in a much better team. Bubba Wallace right behind him. Eric Jones sitting in third. So I have to give the shout out to Midnight Run 5370, who posted in the comment section, which we definitely want you guys to do. And because I always ask you guys, who do you like? Give us a long shot every week. And Midnight Run 5370 said, before today, he said, watch out for Legacy, watch out for Jones, watch out for John Hunter Nemechek. And lo and behold, Eric Jones, third in qualifying. And John Hunter Nemechek also is someone to keep an eye on. We'll get to him in a little bit. All right. Now, also, Ty Gibbs continues to do pretty well as far as qualifying and practice, keeps setting himself in this position. What do we say? The longer you do that, better chance you're going to have to finally coming through. Chris Buescher in a good spot. Carson Hocevar, again, no surprise. Sort of like Briscoe, not as strong, of course, meaning very consistent in qualifying and practice this year. AJ, all of a sudden, is becoming very interesting. AJ Allmendinger, got to keep an eye on him, I think. You know, even last year, he wasn't doing too bad until he got caught up in wreck. And Austin Cindric, he is going to round out the top 10. All right, now, what is the obvious thing you see here in qualifying? Just look here. Look right around here. What do you see here? What do you see here? You see nothing but Toyotas. Okay. Now, what did we say last week regarding last year? So if you haven't joined us yet, we definitely, there's a link in the description of this video. You can watch our video from earlier in the week. We come on every Tuesday, 4:00 live, CJ Radun and I. We go over the races. We give our initial picks. We go over the early odds and go in detail that I don't have time to do on this show. So what did we say? And that is, look at Toyota. Last year, Toyota overall heading into Saturday sessions, practice and qualifying, they were the king manufacturer. Toyota was the team to beat. And sure enough, not only did they have a really good Saturday, but they followed that up by leading 105 of 167 laps in the race. Did they win it? No. Matter of fact, it was a 3-car race. Down in the last 10 laps or so, it was going to be fantastic. It was going to be fun. And then Kyle Busch wrecks late, spins out, causes a green-white, and then all of a sudden, everything changes. Kozlowski dive bombs into the pit at the last second. Larson gets perfect strategy situation where he gets the inside lane, which Blaney would have definitely preferred. And there you go. We talked about that. But no Toyota. Not first, second, third. Okay. So that's a good thing in a way, because as we also mentioned, it shows you that there's more parity now here, at least through one race at the Brickyard. And that's what you needed. Okay. Because pre-next gen, this was just a god-awful, boring race. It was one of the boringest races of the year, even though it's supposed to be one of the biggest. So they come back with the next gen, one race, and now you have what? I think you had 7 cars, mixed bag of manufacturers that led at least 8 laps. Okay. So again, 7 leading at least 8 laps, different manufacturers. So that really showed you that there was a lot more up in the air to what we saw last year as compared to pre-next gen. All right. So Toyota then comes right back and buries it here in qualifying. Now, this was, of course, the second session. We'll get into practice in a little bit, but they're looking awfully good right now here. Let's take a look at the rest of the field. Wow, Shane Van Gisbergen. You know, he's 100 to 1 again this week. You know, he should be 200, but nobody's going to bet him anyway. So nice for him. So look, we hope he continues to, as we've said, we'd like to see Shane Van Gisbergen be more competitive on ovals. Hopefully he'll have a good race tomorrow. There's Kyle. Kyle's setting up nicely. All of a sudden, there's some good vibes going on, even though Richard Childress seemed annoyed last week. I don't know. We'll see. Kyle Larson, he's in an okay position. Keselowski as well. Let's see. Anyone else that sticks out here? Well, Ryan Blaney, very disappointing. It was my top pick to win the race, and I'm not bailing out on him because this is a fuel mileage race. And Penske and Joe Gibbs, that's where you want to look. Those are the two best teams when it comes to fuel mileage. And I think Blaney could very well be there again. The question is, what will his odds be? And we'll get to practice in a little bit. Elliott, 30th. What is Chase Elliott doing 30th? And then we've got Denny Hamlin. Wow. What happened to Denny Hamlin? Well, we'll tell you what happened to Denny Hamlin. He spun out, did not complete a lap, and he's done. So, wow. And this came after, let's just set it up. Denny Hamlin's never won at the Brickyard. Only 3 drivers have ever won at the Brickyard that are racing on Sunday. Kyle Busch, Keselowski, and Larson. That's it. Hamlin is never. So you know this is big. He's racing as best as he's raced all year. He was second at Pocono, the most similar track to Indianapolis. Everything is looking good coming into today. And then he goes out in practice. Let's pop up practice. He goes out in practice. And what does he do? He kills it first. Denny Hamlin showing everybody, I am here to stay for now. I got to do a contract and everything, maybe the last one, whatever. Look, the fact of the matter is with Denny Hamlin is at this stage of his career, it's about a championship. And there's just no way Denny Hamlin can keep this up between now and November. He can't do it. It's too long. So the best thing for Denny Hamlin is at some point, you might want to cool off the streak, this little run you're on, not go nuts in a negative way, but just cool off a little bit and then get that momentum back. And I know, they don't try to do it. Not this week, though. We got to go out and win the Brickyard first. And everything looked good until he spun out and wrecked his car in qualifying. So what does that do to the odds, you may say? I don't know. What is my guess? I bet you the odds are going to stay pretty much the same. It was Hamlin 4-1, Larson 5-1 coming in. And I thought those were solid odds. Maybe Larson is the favorite now. Maybe he's 450 and Hamlin's 5. Something like that. But I'd be surprised if Denny Hamlin, if you lost even a couple of points in Denny Hamlin. And again, why? It's a fuel mileage race. So it's the perfect situation. You're going to crash in qualifying and sit back all the way dead last on a racetrack. There's some of them that you might go, only a few, okay, that you might go, all right, where could I do that? And had it be in something where I could actually make something of myself on Sunday. This would be one of them. I'd even be at the top of the list. Pocono, Brickyard maybe even over Pocono. I don't know. But the fact is that Denny's got a hard job to do tomorrow now, all the way in the back. And is it worth it at 4-1, at 5-1? I don't think the number's going to change much. And I got to say, no. It's already tough to bet these guys as low as it's sort of the same thing. Even like Shane, if Shane would have to do it on a road course, it's much more difficult because to navigate from last to first on a road course is just, come on. How you would do that and get away with not running into somebody just would be remarkable, and I'm trying to equate, like, if Shane's odds were in that situation on a road course in last, could he make it to first? Hamlin here, could he make it to first? Hamlin's got a better way of it because it's not a road course. I get that, but it's still not going to be easy. I need to get better odds. I need to get double the odds. I think it's warranted. I think then I'd have value. If you give me 7-1 odds, I don't think I'm getting it, but if you can give me that, I'd still think of going with Hamlin in some way. Maybe not just all out my top pick, but I would definitely be more inclined to look his way. Fact is, I don't think you're getting it. All right, let's take a look at the rest of practice. Now, here comes some of the craziness. Out of the top 10 in practice, only 4 cars out of the 10 had both top 10s practice qualifying. Eric Jones, Gibbs, Hocevar, and Cindric. Wow. What a quartet. So, wow. Gibbs, now he's been doing this, though. And so this is good. And I definitely like him, especially because his odds were 25-1. And he was 14th at Pocono, which is actually disappointing. I remember picking him at Pocono and remember being very disappointed that he had nothing. I thought he was going to do really well there. He's got an average of 8.0 in his last 7 races. So this is what I'm saying. He's putting himself in position. He's driving a Toyota. Everything is set up for him. I will say this, though, lead laps. Lead some laps here. That's the next step. Try to, just sort of like what Elliott did recently. Lead some laps. Got to do that. But 25-1, how much are we going to lose there now if you didn't take them already? And look, if you liked them before, you should have taken them before. 25-1, what do you got to lose? Of course, you would have thought that he would do pretty well at qualifying, I would imagine. So if you liked them there, I'm sure you took him at 25-1. So you're in great shape. But if you didn't, and for whatever reason you wanted to wait, then I still think you're going to get double digits. I just don't know. You might lose half of it. It might be 12-1 in that range. I might be wrong, but that's what I think you might see. And then you also have Kyle Larson, who improves from 13 to 7. And that's important because of, again, how crazy the difference is when they started practice in the day to how they all of a sudden made this incredible leap in qualifying. All right. So now Larson is looking at it the other way. Again, so he goes out and qualifies, goes out and practices 7th, but then qualifies 13th. So he goes the opposite way. Brad Keselowski, where is Brad? Brad's 3rd. Brad starts off with a very good 3rd place practice run, but only qualifies 14th. And then we mentioned Denny. And here's another one, John Hunter. Told you we'd get to John Hunter, the other legacy driver. John Hunter starts off the day 2nd. His teammate 8th. All right, they're looking really good there, right? Not so much for John, but here's the difference. John is going to end up with still really good odds because he's qualifying so far in the back, and he was such a big number. What was he, 90-1? I don't think you're going to lose a whole lot there. So, maybe you lose 20, 30 points. That's still good enough for me if you haven't taken him as a long shot. So look at John Hunter Nemechek, someone who led 16 laps in this race last year and finished 6th at Pocono. All right. So those are some interesting ones just based on the fact that there were some drivers who started the day, in pretty decent shape and things did not go their way in qualifying. But let's take a look at the opposite effects, okay, as we roll through this, okay? Now, by the way, Austin Cindric, get this. Austin Cindric, 10th in practice, 10th in qualifying, and he was also 10th at Pocono. How about that? He's rolling 10s. Okay, Bubba. Okay, as we saw Bubba was sitting there nice and second in qualifying. He got off to a 14th in practice. Now, Bubba's driving a Toyota. He was 40-1. And we mentioned that Wallace was someone you needed to look at because Bubba was 5th in this race last year, leading 26 laps. He was 7th last week, so he's coming in off the top 10. And don't worry about what happened at Pocono because he had all sorts of he had a nightmarish weekend at Pocono. He did not have a fair setup, didn't count. So this is really a good situation for Bubba. Sitting in second, 14th qualifying is not all that bad. Then there's Chase. Started the day okay, nothing bad, but expected even more. Well, he got less. Chris Buescher, fortunately for him, he improved with that 7th place finish in qualifying as the fastest Ford. And he's also a good one. The only thing I didn't like about Buescher were the odds at 16-1. But at this point, he's still not a bad mini kind of long shot at 16-1. I don't think the odds are going to change all that much, maybe 14-1. He's got a 9.7 average over his last 7 races this year, including 4th at Pocono. All right. So Buescher is definitely, and there's Kyle. I mean, Kyle started 18th, finished 12th in qualifying, last 3 races on the year, 11, 10, and 5th. And Kyle was getting a very generous 28-1. So Kyle, maybe, I don't know, he's still going to get to 20s. I don't see any reason why he's still not getting 20, 25-1 on Kyle. Let's see. Byron starts off with the 21st, comes back with a 6th, but how do you take William Byron right now? I mean, he is so cold that I just can't see it. Not at 8-1. I mean, if he's going well, I have a hard enough time thinking because, again, just taking a look at it overall, 21st in practice is not really all that great. And we'll get into that in just a couple of seconds because this is going to be interesting. So hold on. But overall, I mean, now you're cold and 8-1. No, can't do it. No value at all. Bowman could be interesting because, look, his practice and qualifying speeds were about the same. That's not really good. And he's outside the top 16. And that's the line we want to draw this week, the top 16. I'll get into that in a little bit. So, but overall, Bowman is still someone that is really in a nice place. Things are going well for him lately. So I'm sure the way he's looking at it, just get me in the top 10 and I'm doing fine. Reddick, he starts the day 25th, moves all the way up to 4th in qualifying, 11-1. Okay, so he's got those types of odds. But for Reddick, this is definitely someone that you want to keep an eye on just for the fact that last year he had a nice run, finishing second, leading 40 laps. He did not go well at Pocono, but he's also got his groove going again. So he's a tough one because the odds are okay. It's 11. It's not all that bad. And he's driving a Toyota. So, but 25th in practice is not something that I would be excited about, which I'll get into more on that in just a little bit. Christopher Bell started off 28th, which is really disappointing. Only made himself up to 16th. Chastain, forget him. No Chastain. He's like Byron. Things are not going well for Chastain lately, and there's just no stats, anything that says Chastain is the way to go this week. There's Blaney. Now, he did improve from 32nd to 24th. So there's that. And from practice to qualifying. But last year, he was the dominant Ford all weekend. Fastest in practice, qualifying, and the end result. Something just hasn't hit so far this weekend. By the way, there's Ty Dillon. Big race, $1 million race for Ty. And 33rd in practice. And Ty Dillon will start 26th. So he's got a long way to go to catch up to Ty Gibbs. Now there's Briscoe, 34th in practice. Okay. So if you look at it, Chase Briscoe had the slowest result from the big teams in practice. Okay. Now I'm going to get to some really interesting trends here. This is important. Practice last year. Okay. Let's combine who had really good practice runs and ended up with good results. Okay. We know Kyle Larson wins the race. He's had the 6th fastest speed number in practice. Tyler Reddick was 2nd in the race. He was the fastest in practice. Blaney was 3rd in the race, 2nd in practice. Bell was 4th in the race, 4th in practice. And Keselowski was 7th in practice. And even though he didn't have a top 10 result, that's because he had to duck in with the fuel mileage. Who knows if he would have made it without the late spin out by Kyle. I think he makes it. And he was in 1st at the time. All right. So what that was telling us in the 1 year of data we have on the next gen is practice very important. Okay. So in that respect, here's the interesting thing, because you have Denny and Hunter, complete opposites, 1st and 2nd in practice, yet because of what happened in qualifying, they are all the way down here. Hamlin 39th, John Hunter 36th. So you would really, you got to gamble there. That's a big gamble. But with John, at least his numbers are so high, it's not that big of a gamble. But still, just all odds off, that's not what we're looking for. I think what we're looking for then, if I had to look at it, just that kind of like, let's say when it's all said and done tomorrow, we're going to have a similar trend line from last year to this year, practice results. Then the cars to probably look at would be Keselowski, Gibbs, Larson, and Jones. Okay. I still love Keselowski because he was not that slow in practice. And he almost won the race in Pocono. Who knows if he would have won the race? It was 2nd stage when he was leading, but he was leading, ducks into pit road when it's closed. You know the story. And then he was leading again at this track last year. So these 2-mile tracks, however long they are, this is worked for Keselowski lately. And not a lot has worked for Keselowski in totality for the last few years, but this has. So, and, you know what you were getting with Keselowski the other day, which is why I had him as my second choice. You were getting 25-1. And since he's qualified 14th, I'm not so sure those odds are going to drop a whole lot. So Keselowski out. And again, Gibbs, you got to look at Gibbs because he's driving a Toyota. And he's got he has the best combined numbers today, 5th and 4th. Qualifying and practice. Throw in the fact that you were getting 25-1 with Gibbs. And I think it's a really good option for Ty Gibbs this week so far. It looks good. Larson, I think you have to look that way. Just generally, the hard part is winning back-to-back Brickyards. That's going to be really tough. But and your number is now, because of Hamlin's race, maybe your number's 4-1. I mean, there's no value there. I know Larson got out of his little rut there, but that was just 1 week. He's in my 4 here, but just you're getting no value. And now you would have to say Larson's in much better shape than Hamlin. And then Jones. Okay, so can Midnight Run 5370? Because he was going top 10, but now I'm thinking, what about a win, right? Why not? Jones what was his odds, Jones? He had a big number, didn't he? 90-1. Okay, so you had 90-1. Now, I got to believe that number is going to drop considerably, but you're still going to get a good number on him. So unless you're Midnight Run 5370, you can still, and you've got 90-1 on John Hunter and Jones, you're still going to get a good enough number. See, Midnight Run only has to put a couple of bucks in there, and he can come away pretty nice. You're going to have to spend a little bit more, but it's still going to be a big number. So why not go with Jones? Go with even John Hunter. Why not? And there you go. So that's I think a very key trend that you want to keep an eye on that I think is important. Okay, now the starting position. Remember I said the 16th spot is important. So let me pop that up. And then we're going to draw that line there. Okay, It's right there by Bell. And the reason we're doing that this week is because only 4 winners ever have won the Brickyard outside the top 16. And the farthest back is 27th. So that means that Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin, the ones that just the big names that come to mind there, would have to do something that no other driver has done and win a race outside the top 27, win a Brickyard outside the top 27. And then you throw in the fact that 59% of the winners have started into the top 3 rows with 7 front row winners and 5 pole sitters. Okay, so once again, I think you have to take a look, combining everything. I think you'd have to say, Briscoe is 11-1 because you've lost all value on Chase Briscoe now. And now, and you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Chase Briscoe is 8-1, especially because I think he's going to gain a little bit with Elliott going the other way. Hamlin has to go, I guess, the other way, even by a half a point or a point. Blaney's got to go the other way by half a point. So whatever goes this way, I think Briscoe is going to take a lot of it more than anybody going the other way. So you're just not getting value with Chase. But if you're big into Chase Briscoe, hey, go for it, man. It's not 4-1. So it's a manageable number, and he's driving a Toyota. But with Bubba, you're still going to get a big number. So Bubba's in play. Eric Jones is in play. Gibbs is in play. I still think Buescher should be in play as the top Ford. Let's see. I still think Kyle's got to be in play. He was okay. That's not bad. 12th. But I still want 20s for Kyle. Because he hasn't deserved anything less than that, the way things have been going for him. And still love Keselowski. Definitely Keselowski in play. All right. Oh, and again, with Ryan Blaney, my boy, if I could get a lot better than 7-1 or wherever he was, then I still think he may not be a bad take. But I just don't expect it. I don't expect. History tells me this season that Hamlin and Elliott and Blaney's odds are still going to be pretty similar to what they were before the day started. They're just not giving us any value based on this stuff. So that's unfortunate, but that's why I say in the beginning of the week, check us out on Tuesdays, because we go in depth on Tuesdays on all this stuff. And, a lot of these odds, or some of these odds, are not going to change. And so, and then you could also check the comments section and find out that, viewers like Midnight Run 5370 says, hey, hit Jones and Hunter Nemechek this week. And lo and behold, they're off to a great start. So that's going to wrap it up. We will be back on Tuesday. Once again, it's Iowa. Iowa coming up this week. And then just 3 more races after that before the playoffs start. So we're getting closer to Daytona. And that's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to Daytona being the last race before the playoffs. I think that's going to be really fun. And I'm also going to just love the fact that CJ and I are going to get a chance to talk, fingers crossed, in the last 30 minutes of the race while it's happening. And hopefully we'll have you guys, or some of you guys, joining us for that, weather permitting, and also that CJ doesn't get noticed that he's got to do something that is not on his schedule right now. But fingers crossed. I know I will be there. Okay, I promise I will be there, because it is Daytona. And the only thing that would make it where I know it wouldn't be a fantastic finish would be a caution came out. So it's going to be a crazy finish. And so I know because of that, hey, why not? Let's do it. But hopefully I'll be with CJ, and that's still coming up in a few weeks. But we're getting closer to the playoffs, and we'll be here every step of the way. And as I said in the beginning, you could subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure you miss none of this and much more, including our F1 coverage if you're into that. So good luck tomorrow. And if you have any questions, comments, let me know. And we'll see you again in a few days. Check out the links in the description. You have CJ's DFS fantasy report from rotowire.com, both for NASCAR and F1. So you can check that out. That came out on Friday, yesterday. And Kevin Rogers came out, including the matchup of the week. So you want to check that out. And that video and link is also in the description of this video. So we'll see you again in a few days. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck tomorrow.